Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he doesn't care for your ruse, Sweet Seanza Kovacs from the internet.
37.
And he's not even supposed to be here today, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and Jim Brewer will never be my Randall.
No, he will never be, as much as he wants to try. I think that's what he's going to put on his tombstone. Here lies Jim Brewer, the real Randall. I certainly hope.
Oh my goodness, that's like when what's her name, the lady singer who was in the Johnny Knoxville Dukes of Hazzard had the gall to open up a restaurant of her own called Daisy Dukes.
Oof.
That's
her name. Anyway,
Jessica Simpson. Trust me.
Yeah, that's it.
Listen, she can be as dumb as she wants around these parts. I don't care. Welcome back, everybody. This week we're continuing our pilots that went absolutely nowhere month. Thanks again to Nate for putting all of this stuff together. Giant applause for Nate. My goodness.
Yeah, Nate made our job so easy this month.
God
and
bless.
Pleasant.
It's been it really has been.
It's been great.
So we're going to be talking about I wasn't even aware this was a thing, or maybe I had heard about it and forgotten about it, but we're talking about the Clerks pilot from 1995 that Kevin Smith had absolutely nothing to deal with, but we'll talk about all of that stuff in not too awful long. Before we do all that, though, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Awesome folks over there. Get your pre-show, get your post-show, get your dinger zone, and, of course, you get yourself an HMP nickname. Let's see if Sean remembered this week. We got new Patreon supporter, Whitney O, coming in at that $5 level. Shawnzy, is Whitney going home with a package today?
I don't mean to shock everybody, but I did remember. Yep, I wrote it down, and I'm very glad I wrote it down because midweek I saw the note again and was like, "Oh, right, Whitney O." So Whitney O, I don't know if you've ever done a deep dive on your name, the name Whitney, but I did. And the name Whitney goes back to the 11th century in Herefordshire, England. Whitney was originally used as a surname and is first mentioned in the Domesday, not Doomsday book. Domesday book. And don't ask, I have no idea what the Domesday book is, but the Whitney family is described as a knightly family of remote antiquity, which I take as meaning nice folk, but they're not from here. The name Whitney means White Island. So Whitney, I'd like to congratulate you for being the newest member of HMP. And your new nickname from this point forward is White Island. I know there's a certain percentage of the population who hear this and might think, I don't know if I like that nickname. While others will be far too psyched about it, like way, way too psyched about it.
Thank God.
But it's literally the meaning of your name. So from this point forward, your HMP nickname is White Island. Congratulations, and we thank you.
It's just the absence of color. It's perfectly fine. Thank you, Whitney O, and everyone that supports this show over at patreon.com. If you want to get yourself a nickname, pre-show, post-show, dinger zone, all that kind of good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. And as I said, with votes every single month, you guys get to vote on a movie that we watch. And this month, again, thanks to Nate, he's put all these things together, and your Patreon votes come from all of these as well. Failed pilots. So we have, these are all available on YouTube right now. From Mike Mignola, we have The Amazing Screw-On Head. Jack Black and Owen Wilson star in Heat, Vision, and Jack. Adam West stars in Look Well. Not quite sure what that is. That's a thing, though. And Global Frequency, which is based on a Warren Ellis property. So those will be the four that you'll choose from over at patreon.com/HMP. We'll probably end up voting probably like Thursday night or something like that. So do vote for that. And thank you to the people that support the show, patreon.com/HMP. And, of course, if you can't support the show, drop on over to the iTunes and drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we've got another one. I just I almost forgot that I had let me look this up real fast. Hero movie. I'm sorry. I won't edit this out. You know that. But
it's true.
So we did. We got one more review here. 5 stars. I like this podcast. Pretty good. I like that title. 5 stars. After Marvel 30 questions, I didn't know what to choose until another podcast that was made was HMP, and my favorite HMP cast member would be Bruce because he likes comics, and I like comics as well, and as well as love this podcast. That comes to us from Minnie Mendoa? Sure, why not?
I promise I didn't write that one.
He didn't write this one, but you probably did write the one that came just before this. Is entitled Best. It's from Batmonk32. It's only 3 stars. It's got a lot of emojis in it. So let me read it as is written. This is the best show other than Heroes and Villains. We love it. Glasses, smiley face emoji, regular smiley closey eyes emoji, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clappy emojis, all caps now. The only problem is you think that all kids are dumb. Mad face, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to say that's about 10. Then 3 mad cat faces. Then I'm going to say there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up down sloths. I'm assuming they're mad. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 puppy dogs. Again, I assume those are mad as well.
You know who I think wrote that?
That's a 3-star.
Some dumb kid.
Some dumb. So if your dumb kids would like to drop us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever, please do that. We really appreciate it. And
if you're not a dirty baby, you're just a dumb kid.
Oh,
how's that for a
slogan? That is the slogan.
Mwah, that is beautiful.
That is a slogan right there.
I wish I had a trailer to play after that. So I don't, but you know what it is. Oh, let's see what he's pulling out this week. Good
you
luck.
Mean there's no trailer for the never aired killed pilot?
Son of a gun, I looked.
In the late 90s, Portland, Oregon's Oni Press published a comic with a different kind of hero. These heroes didn't wear capes, but instead name tags. Name tags upon which were written the names Dante and Randall. Each issue was a robust 36-page one-shot prestige format. The first one, titled simply Clerks with the parenthetical, the comic book, was mainly about how renewed interest in Star Wars action figures is cutting into Jay and Silent Bob's drug dealing business. And you got to remember, this is 1998, so this renewed interest in the Star Wars action figures is because of the prequels. The prequels were hot stuff when this was coming out. Now, the follow-up was Clerks, parenthetical, the holiday special. And it is worth noting that this was also published in 1998, way before Star Wars holiday special references were just a little bit too overdone like they are now. Next up was Clerks, parenthetical, the lost scene, which showed us exactly what happened at Julie Dwyer's wake. Guess what? It wasn't good. 2006 brought us Where's the Beef, a fast food themed adventure that tied into Clerks 2, and all the adventures happened to be written by Kevin Smith. But they featured art by a number of excellent folks, including Art Adams, Jim Mafood, and Phil Hester. Image published a collected edition in 2000, and I found a couple of used copies online for less than $10. So that could be a cheap thrill for somebody. And speaking of cheap thrills, Adam, do you have a list?
Oh, 5 and dimes, baby. Oh, yeah. If that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this unaired TV pilot because this sucker has everything. It's 1995. You've had Clerks in the theater, but no one in America saw it. So who cares what you change? It's just like the Clerks you know, except Bizarro. Jay and Silent Bob, that's too much. Nix the Bob and make Jay into Ray. That's how you avoid copyright. You know how else you do that? Since we're taking away Jay and Silent Bob, the least we could do is give you 2.5 Randalls, which I think was a name that they batted around for this show a little bit. 2.5 Randalls.
2.5 Randalls. I love it.
I mean, he is everyone's favorite character. Clone that sucker once and make Dante less of a loser. Profit. Simple. You've got a pre-SNL Jim Brewer playing Randall, and he seems to be trying the best to make out of a bad situation. Brian O'Halloran wasn't cast as Dante in this show because he wasn't cool enough for Dante. Let that sink in. We've got a Veronica upgrade, just saying. I'd like Jim Brewer. Like I said, Jim Brewer's Randall has another Randall who works at the same complex. I don't remember his name. Let's just call him Poochie. That's right. This Quick Stop not only has a video store next to it, it's also got an ice cream parlor, like you do in New Jersey. We got very unfunny conversations, no pop culture references, flailing about. Felicity shows up, a cute girlfriend who's cool with you working at a convenience store. Might as well have a dragon in this thing, guys. Sitting on counters, spoiling movies, not closing tills, bagel hockey, insurance auditions, sucking versus blowing, Little Women. It does it all, am I right? Booze boosting, and then, out of the blue, a man walks into this picture that changes the whole thing. He looks like a Scientologist love child of Tom Cruise and John Travolta in a way that makes you question yourself and what you know to be real. Ooh. Then we got the store video mixer burnt to a crisp in a tanning bed, Chow Yun Fat, Todd No Nookie, water tower hijinks, some ending punchlines. These are the ends of these of acts, and it's so good. Here's the quotes. And these are your funny outlines. This is harder than it looks. Slurpees don't just happen. That's a good one. I wonder how you get your hair like that. Yeah, clapping. And miming hanging oneself. And the end of the show and the series, okay, kids, get out of here. Come on, beat it before I change my mind. Huge studio audience laughter, as there should be. Actual good line, because being mature never means having to say I'm happy. I thought that was a pretty good one, actually. Soundtrack includes Green Day, Better Than Ezra, Soul Asylum, and Vanilla Ice, to which we hear a quote, takes you back. Hey, it was 5 years ago. Don't act like you were better than your music taste
back.
5 years ago when you were in high school. Shut up. Kevin Smith's Clerks is what Gen Xers think that their lives were like in the 90s, but I'm betting this show is more of an accurate representation that was a little bit too real to share with the world. This show has everything, except for the things that makes Clerks Clerks.
Yeah, when you had stepped out for a moment, one of the things that I think that Bruce and I were talking about that I think about the show is that I thought that they would at least get the tone correct.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
not even that.
So can we go ahead and get into that discussion? Because I think you guys will even have a lot more light to shed on it than I do, because you guys have kind of a different eye for this kind of thing. But I mean, they just bobble the ball like it's the kickoff, It's like the game's just getting started. They bobbled the coin toss. That's what they did. They didn't even get to kickoff yet.
They're not even at the station. They're not even at the station to get onto the plane that goes to the stadium. That's how lost they are.
They bobbled the coin toss and they went from a bodega to something that looks more like an actual, not quite a grocery store.
It's like a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it looks like a nicer gas station. Like it looks like something in the suburbs, not something in the city.
Yes.
Like the original one was.
Yes.
In fact, where I live, it looks so much like this chain called United Dairy Farmers, or UDF. That is so much what that looked like on the inside, the color scheme and everything.
So yes, you are right. But they did the thing. They made that cardinal sin that all American sitcoms made forever until The Office, which was everything needs to be prettier. Everybody needs to be chippy all the time, and everybody speaks like a sitcom comedy writer's room from like the 60s.
And also, I think there's a serious problem in that almost everyone who adapts anything thinks they're smarter than the guy who did it the first time.
Yes.
Like I noticed it the most in comic books, because they would take away all the comic bookiness, and then you wonder why they bothered to make the movie. But I'm seeing that same thing here, where it was ultra indie, and Kevin Smith was not in the system, and he just didn't know what he was doing. He's lucky he found any audience at all. We're going to do it right and make it massive. Like I feel like that was the vibe in the room.
Well, the other part to this too is that clearly the one man, and we'll get to him in a minute, but the one guy who wrote the script for this has never actually worked in that capacity. He was never a convenience store clerk.
It's always a good move.
He was never, he probably didn't even know anyone who ever worked in a convenience store, Now, I think another thing that probably is going to hinge how you feel about that is going to hinge in a major way on how you feel about Jim Brewer. And I'm just going to go ahead and expose my own biases here and say that I, for some reason, and it's not a reason I can identify, but I really, really dislike Jim Brewer.
Here's the thing. I think Jim Brewer had like a lot of grating characters on Saturday Night Live. And some of them that were just and in the 90s especially, SNL ran bits into the ground.
Yes.
To where you were just like, by the fifth time of this character, I'm like, you give me another Goat Boy, I'm putting a bullet in my head. It's just not happening. So I think they like, because I don't think he's wildly unfunny. I don't think he's like hilarious or nothing. I don't think he's like a comedic genius, but I don't think he's like unfunny. I think he has comedic timing and stuff. I don't think that this was a proper vehicle for him.
Well,
I don't blame him for this at all. And he's not great in it, but it's not him.
Here's the main problem with Brewer is that Brewer is sweaty. Everything he does is like, you can see it. You can see him working.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the difference between when Billy Crystal was funny to where Billy Crystal is now. Like you every time he makes a joke, you're just like, oh boy. And the reason being is sweaty, that he needs it to be funny.
Oh man.
And that's the way and I always felt like Brewer was that from the beginning.
I was kind of surprised that he had the career he did have, but if you've heard interviews with him in the past 10 to 15 years, I get the idea that he's bitter he didn't have more of a career.
I don't know. I disagree with that because like I've heard a couple interviews with him where I feel like he got the most
recent. You may have heard interviews more recently than me, so he may have changed. It might have been 10 years since I've even heard one.
Yeah, from what it sounds like from the more recent interviews that I've heard, it feels like he kind of got his head around some stuff. I don't think he has probably as big of an ego as like perhaps one would have thought. Certainly, I would have guessed. But that's, and again, who knows? These are all the things that people show us in public. Who knows what the hell people are like in private? He might be a monster. Who's to say?
He doesn't have the pleasant personality come across like a Rob Schneider would, who just understands he is what he is.
But here's the thing though, of all the stuff that you can point to in this, Jim Brewer, I think, is probably the least of them. There's so many. I mean, like, first and foremost, I think the biggest problem in this is really the casting of Dante.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's the American problem.
Yeah, we got half a Dante. We got half a Dante and half a Randall in this one character. Like, he dresses like Randall a quarter of the time. He's got a couple of very Randall-esque lines that Dante would not say.
Showrunner clearly didn't understand the magic that made Clerks work either, because now's probably the time to get this out there, but the actors who portrayed Dante and Randall auditioned for this show and were turned down.
They didn't realize that this was a
thing.
Get
out of here.
Yeah,
really?
They did
Here's
not
the
know
problem,
it was a
though.
thing.
Here, Randall's actor, and I have to apologize, I cannot remember the guy's name right now, but Randall's actor was told, you have to apply, you have to audition for another character because Jim Brewer was tied to this before it even went into development. Like, he was tied to the pilot from square one. Somebody said, "Oh, Jim Brewer is the guy we're going to build a franchise around."
Wow.
So yes, O'Halloran, I think that's the name of the guy that played Dante. His last name, and is it Anderson? Is the last name of the guy that played?
Yeah.
But yes, they both auditioned, and they have both gone on the record as saying, "Boy, we dodged a bullet by not getting cast in that one."
Brian O'Halloran was the one who found out from someone else who asked him if he was auditioning for the Clerks TV show, and he was just like, "A what now?" He didn't know. Kevin Smith did not know that this was a thing.
Kevin Smith found out because the guys told him about their audition.
And guess what? He found out. He actually wrote a script for this, and they said no.
That's great.
They said no to the guy who wrote Clerks. They go, "You're not good enough to write the Clerks television show, nor are the boys that you put in your Clerks film good enough to be on the small screen." What planet?
Why do they need this to be called Clerks then? Just make something like what's that Superstore show? You can make workplace shows that don't. This looks way more like the Canadian Corner Gas to me than it does like the American Clerks. So why even use the name if you have such disdain for the property? But I'm sure that's the only way it got greenlit. Was because of that name. And the guy's like, "Man, I want to make my workplace show, but I got to tie this loser's title to it."
But it didn't get greenlit. It just got a pilot.
Well, even to get a pilot, you need a budget, though.
Somebody's got to scrape together a little bit of bread.
Somebody's got to pitch something before you even shoot the pilot.
And plus, they had to get all those audience members in.
I've written like 5 or 6 pilots that made it to pilot, and that was it. Like nothing made it past that.
I've written 15 pilots, but I've never shown them to anyone. When I die, it's in my will to make all these shows, or else I'll haunt you.
I've written a couple pilots, but it's just to get stamps from different parts of the world. Thank you.
You know, I'll just steamroll over that. You're welcome. You know what it reminds me of, that they turned down the guys from Clerks, is the Bill and Ted cartoon that had Keanu Reeves and what's his name?
Alex Winter.
Yeah. Alex Winter.
Yeah.
And Alex Winter doing the voice of their characters for the Saturday morning cartoon show. And then Fox had the Bill and Ted TV show. So they kick Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter off of doing the voice work for that show and bring in the TV voice guys, the guys from TV to do the voice.
Imagine if when Clerks, the animated series, made it to air, they had forced him to use Brewer.
Can you believe it? It's so awful. Terrible.
At the same time, too, though, wouldn't it be hilarious if at some point during, like, if Clerks got pulled up to like a full season or something, that like the alternate universe Clerks guys would definitely get in there at some point in that animated series? That would be a lot of fun.
Now, here is one thing that I'm going to say. I don't exactly know how Kevin Smith knew to do this, where the serendipity was. Well, I know why he did it, but the fact that a guy who had no career is dealing with, where the Weinstein's still running Miramax at this point in time when Clerks gets picked up. So you're dealing with, to say they're shrewd is probably an understatement. I mean, they're famous for screwing talent in more ways than one. Wow, I didn't even know what I was saying when I said that, but boom, it came out, didn't it? Anyway, Kevin Smith was able to keep the rights to Jay and Silent Bob, so they could make the movie Clerks without him, but they could not use Jay and Silent Bob because he was already working on Mallrats when he sold the distribution and the rights and so forth. So he had to hold on to those characters.
So instead, they have the ice cream shop owner or the ice cream shop kid over at the.
Well, his name is Todd, which is their version of Bob, and then Ray is supposed to be their Jay, the shoplifter.
Yeah, he's that version. Which
do you guys recognize the actor playing Ray?
Oh yeah.
Because can I tell you this weird story? Can I share with the audience this weird story before I watch Clerks? I'm listening to this podcast talking about a movie called Shrunken Heads. It's made in like 98 or something. Like, it's not as old as you'd think. But anyway, there's this movie called Shrunken Heads that Richard Elfman directed. So he got his brother, Danny Elfman, to do the opening theme. And this is post Richard Burton working with Danny Elfman. I mean, Danny Elfman is a big deal at this point, but I guess his brother had some blackmail on him or something. And then he puts his son, Richard puts his son, Bodie Elfman, as a character named Booger. And I thought it was funny because I didn't know that Bodie acted. But like, Bodie is friends with my aunt.
Oh, really?
And then he pops up in this show. So I send you guys this text that said, oh, by the way, I learned that Danny Elfman's nephew is my aunt's friend. And then we're watching Clerks and he pops up as the shoplifter guy, which I did not know that when I told you guys.
Wow. Okay. That is actually impressive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but he made a documentary. He produced a documentary called Generation Growth. And part of it was filmed at the boys' home that my aunt runs because they have a really cool, indoor urban greenhouse thing. It was part of this documentary. So anyway, yeah, she's friends with Bodie, and I did not know he was in this pilot when I told you guys that.
Speaking of people that are in this pilot, that you're like, because he's one that's like, oh, you've seen this guy in a couple of things here and there. Is the guy that comes back the old love interest, Cliff? The guy with the hair? Oh my gosh! Yeah. First and foremost, this dude. You look at him, you're like, oh, he's just some kid actor or whatever in the 80s and whatnot.
I had to pause and make sure it wasn't Jerry O'Connell for a minute.
Yeah, he's got he's got a little Jerry O'Connell in him. He's got just a ton of the every 80s dude
do you
was
in
in
that
there.
Era when he was on that TV show where he was a superhero kid or something. You know the one I'm talking about?
My Secret Identity.
Yeah,
because he kind of had that hair like this guy.
But this dude became a producer and it's just produced everything in the world.
Really?
Oh my God. He produced Alias. He produced
wow.
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the new one, stuff that's out. Like, he's been like this giant producer in Hollywood forever. He's written a whole bunch of television and stuff. He was an actor, of course, in a whole bunch of different things, but like, he's been just this big giant producer, still all the way up. He's got this Dragon Con TV Masterclass. What is that about? I don't know. I'm going to check that out. The lyric says Dragon Con TV. He executive produced the new Netflix Cowboy Bebop. Dude was in some. He became a really big guy, and according to the picture on IMDb, the ladies with him a bit not too bad either. So this guy, he's coming up roses out of everybody.
He says this was the high point of his career.
I don't know that would be true because a lady that's on his shoulder, the red carpet, not so shabby.
As I was watching this, there came a point where I really had a bizarre deja vu moment where I could have sworn, I was like, holy crap, I think I've seen this before. Like, is there some way I possibly would have seen this and not remembered? Because I can't see any way I would have watched this and not remember that I watched it. And then it kind of started to sink in, like every single sitcom I watched growing up had an episode where you go up on the water tower and the police catch you. I think that's just what it was.
Family Matters had an episode of that. I'm fairly certain.
I feel like I probably saw. Yeah, I feel like I probably saw it first way back on Happy Days. Like Potsy and Mouth got Richie to go up to the water tower.
Like it's a big set that's just sitting around, and they're like, "How can we use
this?" I know
how
for a fact I saw it on the Torkelmans or the Torkelmans, however you pronounce that.
How can we just put this into
Torkelsons? I think it was the Torkelsons, wasn't it?
I don't know what that is.
It's a good show.
So the other person on this show who I was surprised to see it on, and I'm not talking Carrie Russell. We'll get into that in a minute. Is Rick Gomez is on the show, and he's playing the ice cream guy, the ice cream kid.
Yeah.
And Rick Gomez, I know best from Band of Brothers, and he is great in that. And every time he shows up somewhere, I'm like, why wasn't this guy a bigger deal? And now I get it. Watching him in this show, I totally get it. Oh, that's why.
Like, he was just lucky he was able to do justice for that one, because at least he's got something now to hang up some headshots.
Oh man, he's so great in that show. Just terrific. And so and I loved that series so much so, in fact, that whenever any of those guys show up in other things, I'm like, oh hey, there's there's gonorrhea, that kind of thing. And so seeing him in this, it's one of those things where it was like, oh man, that's great. He's in it. There's hope for this. Oh, oh no. He is not good. He is not good. And the ham-fisty nature of everyone's performance in this, it feels like they're all from vaudeville, and they started working in talkies.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little game here. I'm going to match up the characters with the closest counterpart that I can think of in Clerks, and we'll see which one of them comes the closest to the same vibe as the original. I'm not saying any of them are good, but one of them has to come closer than the rest. So I guess we could start with our Dante and Randall. So we've got the movie Dante and Randall. We got whoever this Cracker Jack is playing Dante in the show, and then we got Jim Brewer. So we've also got Veronica, I think is her name, who's a very different looking actor, but playing the character pretty well. We've also got, I guess we can go ahead and say that Todd and Ray are Bob and Jay. So we'll just line them up. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of closeness there. And unless you have anything else to offer up, I'll even say like the guy that came in as the attorney is kind of like the Rick. What's his name? Rick Maris or whatever.
Rick Darris,
yeah, Rick Darris.
He had such like that. That was the first thing that I got, and what I was actually expecting him, because I was like, man, if this is Rick Darris, that's a pretty smooth move, because he had that Rick Darris vibe to him and everything.
Yes, he did.
And so I was just like, oh, this would be pretty. And you think they're gonna zig and they zag, and not in a good way.
I think the closest one is Ray. And I don't mean to his counterpoint. I mean, the character of Ray seems to be the only one that could be okay in the movie Clerks. Like I could totally see that character and the actor playing him being in the movie Clerks.
Yeah, if he got a little Kevin Smith direction, yeah.
I could see Bodie Elfman playing Snowball.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
could totally see
sure,
that.
for sure.
it's this he feels like the only character that came from the movie. Every single other person on this show is like just like slamming punchlines, and the Jim Brewer of it all, when he is like, it's almost like he's the poor man's Jim Carrey in this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it doesn't work for Clerks.
They also, it kind of feels like they were just like, okay, act wacky. Like they didn't, like, it doesn't even feel like they gave like good specific directions or anything.
Right.
It was just like, just do something funny and wacky. And he's just like, I don't know, something like this, I guess. All right. Is that funny? I don't know.
And I understand they're dealing with network TV. I have no idea what network they were hoping this would land on, but for all they know, it could be like CBS, the grandma channel. So they got to watch their jokes. But I think you could still give a little hint, like as somebody's either walking into or out of the room, you just hear them say, really? 37? And just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We need a little bit, but you can tell that when they made this, they clearly felt like Clerks, the movie, compared to Clerks, the TV show, would be remembered like MASH, the movie, compared to MASH, the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That is not, I don't think that Clerks got 11 seasons.
No.
No, definitely not.
But if Alan Alda was playing Randall, they would have.
Everybody keeps talking about Alan Alda on that show, but when you were a kid, Klinger was the one who kept you watching.
Yes, he was, man. I even liked Radar when he was on there, but Radar, of course, wasn't there for the whole run.
So let's get to it for a second, if we can. That this show was not written by Kevin Smith. It was written by a guy named Richard Day. Are you guys familiar at all with the work of Richard Day?
Father of
No.
Charlie Day. Everybody knows that.
Really?
No.
Not a
Charlie
church?
Day's
Maybe
Charlie
not.
Day's parents are both musicians.
And one of them is, isn't there a Felicia Day or somebody named something like that?
There is.
That's Felicia
Yeah.
Rashad. That's a different
Oh,
show altogether.
So, man, you are bruising it up tonight there, Portress.
What can I say?
So the Richard Day, I think that he is one of Gary Shandling's guys, meaning that I think that he was one of Gary Shandling's writers. And the reason why is because when you look at the guy's filmography, he worked on, like, here are the highlights of his career. It's the Larry Sanders Show, it's the Gary Shandling Show, and it's Arrested Development.
Well,
I don't know how he fell backwards into that gig, but he totally did. And so those are the highlights of his career. Here are the lowlights. And the first one I'm going to mention is new. Like, it's like 3 years old new. It's called Dog with a Blog.
I am familiar with the original Dog with the Blog. There's a new version.
Maybe it's an older version.
There was a Dog with a Blog that was like circa 2008, maybe 2009.
Oh, maybe that was it. I can't imagine there's more than one dog with a
no,
blog.
listen, he was on
Be
the
surprised.
renaissance of it. You know how something is really cool and amazing and like world changing, and then it goes away for a while, then it comes back. This is like Kiss, but with whatever the hell we're talking about.
Mhm.
With a dog with a blog.
So there's that. He also worked on Dinosaurs, the sitcom.
Love it,
which I
love
know-
it, love it, love it.
I know everybody thinks that that's a great show. Go ahead and watch a half hour of that show and tell me how great that show is.
Love it.
It's The Simpsons with rubber suits.
I'll take
It is not. It really isn't.
I'm a fan, and I'll still say that's wrong.
And of course the lowest of his career, Clerks, the TV pilot. This is so bad, man. And so he it's the reason why I think that he wrote for Gary Shandling is because the difference between Gary Shandling's show, which was in the early 90s, to Larry Sanders. I mean, that's such a gigantic leap. And there's nothing, like, the only thing that's kind of oddball about Gary Shandling's show is that he kept telling you that he had a show, but like,
Yeah.
it was pretty rote. Like, it wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't like, wow, like this is something to watch. Whereas the Larry Sanders Show totally was. And so, and the difference between that is 10 years time. And I don't know too many people who worked in a writer's room on a show that you did 10 years ago that you would call back in for your unsuccessful show for, you know, this high concept idea that you have.
You haven't stretched your legs in a decade. How about you come back on in here and quarterback this bad boy? And you're like, that doesn't happen. That doesn't
That's
happen.
why I think it's him.
So got a little bit of he's probably got some dirt.
Yeah, or I mean, he probably also, you know, probably wrote for him for a bunch of years, and I would imagine if that's the case, then Apatow, he's probably worked with Apatow also.
Gary, do you remember the Christmas party in 1993? Well, I do, and I happen to have a couple of pictures to prove it. So, if you would like me not to expose these to the world, I would like to be in this, that, and the other.
Has Kevin Smith really ever had much success on the small screen? I mean, I watched a little bit of Clerks, the animated series, and thought it was pretty good. But I mean, I watched like 2 episodes in real time back when it was on.
And after that, they canceled those. After those 2 episodes, so it was about. So,
and then I know he dabbled a little bit in the CW's DC kind of shows that were going on over there, but. Also talking of an animated Howard the Duck that he was supposed to make and develop that never happened. So has he had much small screen success, particularly now in our streaming environment? I think there's more opportunities for a mid to low budget auteur like Kevin Smith to make something work.
Well, isn't he the showrunner on the new He-Man show?
You know what?
Yeah.
He very well could be. I haven't watched that show, so I don't know.
I'm to understand that. I think that's I'm
okay,
99.9 on that one.
So he's got something going on. All right. I kind of feel like a nice series of some streaming shows would be good for him. Like I could see him kind of getting his View Askew-averse and doing something in the same vein as like Trailer Park Boys or Letterkenny, but only doing it with his New Jersey crew. You know, like what happens when slackers get middle-aged, the Jay and Silent Bob get old scenario from his podcast. I think he could have some fun stuff in the TV show format and do like 6 episodes and be done with it or something.
Maybe. I mean, he's still saying he's finally going to get around to directing Moose Jaws. You hear about this? It's like Jaws, but just like Jaws, but with a moose.
With a moose.
It's in Canada. Canada.
Yeah, I gotta
replace Jaws or put him with a moose. That's all you got.
I didn't mess with Tusk or Yoga Hosers, but I'll go see Moose Jaws. There's
like that right there. You're just like, all right, well, that seems like fair enough. I gotta go see that.
Dagnabbit, I thought I had kicked my habit, but here I am.
There were.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I was gonna say there were so many there were moments in this that like almost felt like they had the kernel of something that they could have led into something interesting. I'm just talking about like. You don't even think so? Just a couple, like even just the thought process of like, oh, if Kevin Smith took this first draft and put jokes into it, I think there's a skeleton in here that has a place for jokes that could make this funny. It's just none of them are there.
Well, the problem though is that you have set up punchline for all of the show. And that isn't what Clerks is.
But those aren't even punchlines. That's the most even.
Well, again, I agree with you. But again, it's one of those things where like this is sitcom punchlines. Like that's what the show is.
Just imagine if Touchstone Television had the rights to Jay and Silent Bob. This would have turned into like an adult white version of Keenan and Kel bouncing around. And it's supposed to be funny just because the way that they talk. And of course, it would not have been the original actors. So God only knows Horatio Sands and Fred Armisen would have been awesome, but I don't know if that's who they would have got.
Well, they would have been 11 also at the time.
That's true. But you know, I could just see the Pauly Shore as Jay. That's about right. Yeah, that's what I could have seen is the Pauly Shore style of humor on Jay.
Yep, absolutely.
And it would have sadly gotten 3.5 seasons.
And you know, I know I brought this up off air, but this show is a grumpuccino show. For those of you who don't know what that means, when I was watching a sitcom, I don't remember the name of it, in the 90s, somebody walked into the door and said, and they said something all angrily, and another character said, "Well, it looks like somebody drank a grumpuccino this morning." And the laugh track, they brought it all the way up to 11.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, whenever there's a show like this one in particular, I call it a grumpuccino show because that's how bad it is. And this is one of them. This is the sort of show that would have that joke in it.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
Yeah.
I love the video store is great. I love that stupid scene in there. Like any video store ever is having these wild rave parties in their video store at night, which is awesome.
I know when I worked at a video store, the nice old lady who ran it would have loved if I had a party in it at night. She would have loved it.
I say that, but a couple of us have done that in this art, so I don't know.
We have got to talk about the big name in the room, which is Carrie Russell is in the show.
Yeah.
The second she was on screen, I was just like, is that no, she's not in this.
It makes you wonder what other vile and disgusting things she might have done to make it in Hollywood. This is a pretty disgusting pilot. I mean, what is she doing here is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
It was like a Will and Grace joke. You wouldn't believe the vile and disgusting things I had to do for this ring. Leslie Jordan, rest in peace. That was one of his great jokes. Always talking about the vile and disgusting things he had to do for his rich wife to buy him things.
I think what she had to do for this was be a hot actress and show up. And they were just like, oh, well, we're certainly getting this young lady in here. She's like, attractive and.
You're attractive enough for a skincare commercial. It's going to be way better on your CV long term than this. Like Dove for Teens. If she does a Dove for Teens commercial, that's way better than this.
I don't know. Like she's okay. I don't know what she would see in Ice Cream Boy per se. Maybe she's just kind of like, I don't know. Is the idea that the character's kind of fast and loose, as it were?
It's because he's got that sexy New Jersey hairdo.
I did enjoy, like, because this was absolute dude stuff. Him just kind of talking to her, getting all this, and Dante just walked by, smacks him right in the back of the head, super ass hard. It was just great. I'm like,
especially the 90s. You don't do that so much now.
Yeah, that's assault now. But in the 90s, you could just walk up and just smack the crap out of the back of your buddy's head. If you're getting ready to take a drink
out of a soda, bonus points.
Oh yes.
Oh my Lord, man!
Smack it on the ground. Yes.
I hated getting smacked in the back of the head. That happened a lot.
I know, man. But you can't let people know how much you hate it, because that just means
it's true. It's like a nickname that you don't want.
Oh, yeah. You don't like this? Well, let me crack my knuckles and get in double on this one. I liked the music placements that they most assuredly did not have the rights to, and were just temp music that was in there, because you're not putting in like Green Day at this point, because like they had just shot off in 1994, which is probably when they shot this thing or put it together, because it says like May 1995 is when this was kind of quote unquote put out, if you will. So they were just grabbing stuff. They're like, there's some Soul Asylum. Let's put that on the back. And then like they put it just down far enough to where you can't really hear it too much until you go and try to pick it out.
Soul Asylum has to be in there on purpose, though, because they cameoed in the movie Clerks.
I would probably say that there was something that had to do with the soundtrack or something. Maybe there was you know how that kind of stuff is like, you did this with us, and so now you owe us this thing over here, and we'll just take it, because they're not doing anything for it, but on account of you did this, now we get to do that kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about this, but are they using the same incidental music in this show that they use on Friends?
It's amazingly 90s in it, is that it's just that, like, when we're in between everything, they want it to feel like Clerks. It's kind of that close to Clerks, but it ain't it.
I'd love it if every time somebody walked in or out of a door, they gave us the old Seinfeld slap bass and didn't expect us to recognize it.
Well, listen, I mean, to a degree, though, like, let's imagine like a Clerks show that kind of works. Like, wouldn't it be great to have like a show where like a Jay and Silent Bob walk in and the audience kind of goes nuts for him and stuff, and like they have to wait till the applause dies down and then they get into the bits, but it's actual funny bits that Kevin Smith wrote.
You get a whole episode about Jay and Silent Bob in a van trying to make their way to Los Angeles so Berserker guy can try out for American Idol.
There's a lot of really stupid, fun ideas that you could do with this, but what they decided to do was put together the most bland piece of garbage ever that doesn't feel like they wanted to. The jokes at best best are threes. But most everything is even below that. Things that like I said, just wildly aren't funny. That's the laughs that are supposed to bring you to break, to make you go, boy, I can't wait till this show comes back on the air after these commercials because they made me laugh so hard. No, there's none of that. None of that happens. You
did not injure yourself laughing at this show. You want me to believe that?
You're like, well, I guess that was
that is a pretty high measurement. It's like, if I don't injure myself laughing, it's not a good show, and that counts for dramas too. So there you go.
And talk about a place where no one is at. You were at a convenience store. I think, save for the knockoff J customer, is there any other store? Like, I think that one guy walks in for half a second at the beginning. Outside of that, they never even ring up customers. It's insane. They never work at this store, and like, it's worse than The Simpsons.
And, if this were made in the 80s, the pilot would have rehashed a lot of the plot of the movie. So we would have had him lying behind the counter with the sign up that says, please leave your money in the box and all that. They would have replayed some of those jokes for
almost
for
would
a
have
popular
made
pilot,
it
but they
better.
did none of that here.
I might have even liked if, like, it would have been corny, it would have been stupid, but would have actually reminded me that I'm watching Clerks, because it has nothing else to do with it outside of three characters' names.
Yeah,
it's astounding how they thought that they could just kind of go like, well, I mean, maybe because Clerks didn't make a whole lot of money, they figured they could just change whatever they wanted to, but didn't know what made the magic sauce to begin with.
Was The Sopranos around at this point?
No,
it's a couple years before that.
So what was going on with like premium cable original programming? Because I'm trying to think if you could get like an HBO Showtime Clerks with Kevin Smith, and you do it in black and white, and you have the exact same kind of jokes and humor. You can go all R-rated. I think that might have been an interesting show, but I don't know if anybody was doing anything like that.
I still think at this point, I think at 94, I think Miramax is owned by Disney, so chances are this show's going to like ABC or something like that. So I don't know that they have like a premium place to go, certainly in 1994. I mean, perhaps HBO would have been like an option, but HBO, like, even then in like mid-90s, they weren't up to any of the super, I mean, they had some stuff, but it wasn't like the super prestige stuff like we have nowadays.
No, they didn't start doing that till The Sopranos, really.
Yeah, your late 90s.
Because before that, you have like Get a Life, or not Get a Life, you have like Dream On,
Arliss,
and like Arliss, and Real Sex, and like stuff like that.
Stuff you don't want to watch.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, this might be, no, it's bad.
Somehow Jay Moore was in all of the shows.
Yeah,
yes.
but Jay Moore had an exclusive contract with everyone. But it's like, I wish it'd be nice if it had some place to go like that. But like, I think even I would have liked to see the script that he wrote for this, the one that Kevin Smith submitted with his network television thing. I don't know how different it might be from, the animated thing, or if at all, or it doesn't sound like he kind of recycles a lot of stuff from, because he wrote Clerks 3 at least 3 different times, it sounds like. So I don't think he recycles like that, but I'd love to see what that script was. What was his idea for network TV?
I did read that he included it as like the B plot in one of the animated episodes, but I don't know which one.
Okay.
Do you think, this is a serious question, that they gave Kevin Smith the animated series to try to smooth him over because of just the bungled job on this?
I could see that.
I think this was bungled so badly, it was like it never happened, though. Like it's not like it made it to air and was canceled quickly. A lot of people didn't even know that this thing happened.
But yeah, like you said, we'd all mentioned that, like, you saw Corman's Fantastic Four and the Wonder Woman. We always saw that at comic shows and stuff like that. I never remember seeing a Clerks pilot.
Nor I. I didn't know about this till very, very recently.
So I don't think that the animated show, I don't think that a peace offering or smoothing anything over was part of it at all. I honestly think that Smith probably just pitched to somebody and they liked it. The problem is, once again, though, network TV and Clerks isn't always going to match real well. So that's why, like, the nowadays with the streaming and ratings are kind of unless you got really young kids, you're not paying that much attention to ratings these days for streaming stuff. But it's not like, network television where they censor for you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like if Kevin Smith put out like we've got like 8 episodes of like a Clerks animated thing that he would like put even just like up on his own website or something like that, I would actually find that interesting. And if it was done by all the right voice actors and stuff like that, it just feels like when you hear all the story of the animated cartoon, there were just no one had their brain inside their skull when that thing was going on. It sounded like no one knew what was quite going on, and it was a cluster from the get-go.
They knew that the Generation X kids liked this movie, but they didn't know why they liked the movie.
Yeah, and they're like, well, this is kind of, and they put it in a weird spot. They debuted it in like really odd spots, I remember.
And I'm sure there was some old guy smoking a cigar that says, I'll tell you what Gen X likes. They like what I tell them to like, dang it.
That's this show's not too awful far from that, but I love that she at the end of the episode, Veronica is like, she's going against what her character would be. Veronica would want him to go get this insurance job.
Of course,
she would not be like, I just want you to be a real person of yourself, even if it's working here at the convenience store. No. First of all, not only is that wrong for that character, that's wrong for ladies in general. They're not just
the entire premise behind that plot line is a falsehood. Where, if I take that job, that's going to be my job for life. Says who?
Yeah, that doesn't work like that.
As if you could take that outlook about the job you currently have too. Do you want that to be your job for life? Maybe you do. There's no harm in it if it's getting it done, but it's a weird thing to say.
Yes,
it's very not fulfilling. It's quite strange. Well, you know what else is quite strange? Every single comic book movie or TV film ever existed relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Hey, guess what? I'm still here, Mr. Stallone. And this week's Stallone connection is actor. Let me start that over. I'm still here, Mr. Stallone. And this week's connection to you is an actor named Bodie Elfman. He plays Ray in the blessedly never picked up for series Clerks TV show. And Bodie happens to be married to actress Jenna Elfman, who was last seen on Fear the Walking Dead, a show that has never been watched by anyone ever. And if you want to know just how much no one watches this show, Jenna Elfman has appeared in 65 episodes of the show.
Holy crap, I did not know that.
I had no idea.
Literally 65 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead. Wow. Bodie Elfman's father started a surrealist street theater troupe in 1972 called the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, which performed under that name until his brother Danny Elfman took over the troupe, eventually turned it into a band, and renamed the group just Oingo Boingo. And as much as I would like to jump on the Hollywood is nothing but Nepo babies bandwagon, the truth of the matter is Bodie Elfman is the best part of this failed Clerks TV pilot. He's the only character on the entire show that nailed the personality of the characters from the movie. So I have to ask the question, did he bring that same excellence to the TV show Las Vegas that you did a guest spot on? As I've said on previous episodes, I've never watched that show, but I wonder if he brings the same thunder to every role he's in. And I also wonder, since his wife is a hardcore Scientologist, if he is as well. Because if he isn't, good job by him by keeping a marriage together after nearly 30 years. But who knows? Maybe the Scientology angle helps because you can't pick the other person apart if you're too busy trying to figure out how many of the evil space aliens live inside of you. Well, that's it for this week's Stallone Connection. I hope to hear from you next week, Mr. Stallone. Your pal, Sweet Shawnsy from the internet.
Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Clerks, the unaired 1995 TV pilot, fall on the Robin rating system for you?
I try to dig deep. I try to find something to latch onto. I really try to find joy in all the stuff we do. Sometimes when something's real bad, it makes it that much more fun to enjoy it, but that is not the case here. I am one of those stereotypical Gen X guys that felt like Clerks was really speaking to me, and to see it treated this way, boy, this makes me feel like I'm Ethan Hawke in some character of his from the mid-90s who doesn't like the way the man is destroying what he loves. So there you go, Gen Xers. I'm giving this one an angry Troy Dyer, Ethan Hawke's character from Reality Bites, who got fired for stealing a Snickers and had a band called Hey, That's My Bike.
Stop pointing the mirror back at me, bro. Sean?
Yeah, for me, this is a Jason Todd all the way. This is really bad, and this is bad on several fronts, but mostly it's executive error on this show, and it deserves to be a failed pilot, because that is what it is. It is a failure in every single way.
I agree with everything. I agree with the grade. I agree with the assessment. But yet at the same time, I do recommend this as an oddity. It is 21 and a half minutes. It's not long, but it
just feels really long.
It does feel long. It's funny because Sean texted us in the group. I'm 10 minutes into this thing, and it feels like I've been here for 2 hours. I literally, while watching this today, I had that feeling, and I was just like, oh, I bet this is about the time that Sean was feeling that. I tapped the bar. It was 4 minutes in. I swear to God, I thought it. I was like, bro, this is, woo, okay. But, like, there's enough of an oddity to it for me to, like, look at, like, all of the wrong and everything that went, just all the really bad choices, all the bad choices that were made. And for 22 minutes, I think it's worth it if you have that curiosity. If you don't give a crap, then ignore it and run away. But if the idea of like, let me see how bad they can screw this up, this is it. And I think it's worth watching for that. But it is bad, Jason Todd.
So I'm going to make a joke I've totally never ever made on the show before here, Sean. That if you've only got 22 minutes to live, this is the thing you want to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. It will drag.
You'll be like, can I just die already?
Can I just die?
You're like, Jesus, take me home now. I'm ready to go. This is it. We've been here long enough. I'm ready. I'm ready to see the light.
I hope I go to heaven, because if I go to hell, Jim Brewer will be waiting for me.
What's that? I will send you to hell before I send you to heaven. Here we go. We're watching the Clerks pilot. So when you get there, you're going to be like, boy, this place is a lot better. Like, I know it's great, but even if you had been down there 22 minutes ago, whew, you wouldn't even.
Oh, I got a question for you guys. I know that we're wrapping it up here, but I got a real life question here for you.
Yes.
So, they're making Half Baked 2, and Chappelle isn't in it. Is Brewer?
I heard Brewer's not even in it. I could be wrong, but I know Chappelle's not in it, but I heard even Brewer's not in it. If Brewer's not even in it, it's just like, then at that point, I mean, listen, Harlan Williams can be got for a song. We know that. But
Harlan Williams also, there was a moment in time when he was actually funny, man.
Now it's just like, oh, I think he just may have a couple of loose upstairs.
Yeah, I think that now it's just a psychological problem.
Yeah, it's just like, have you done a lot of whippets or something? What's going on?
Are we sure that there's going to be a Half Baked 2, or is this something somebody's just saying?
No, there's definitely a Half Baked 2.
Something's going down.
Weird sequels, man. Weird sequels.
Hey, listen, a scant 25 years later, it's fine.
Next up, Strange Brew 2. Back in the brew. Stranger.
No. I love that movie. No.
Now, like so many IPA jokes. Ugh.
It's all just about the flying dog, the sequel.
Terrible. That is it, everybody. Remember, we've got patreon.com/HMP. You are voting. We have the amazing Screw On Head, Heat Vision and Jack, Look Well, and Global Frequency. Those are for you to choose and vote. Tell us. You tell us. And we will watch that failed pilot and bring this whole month to an end. And then we're jumping into February, man, where we got some Ant-Man 3 on the way. Holy cow. A third Ant-Man movie? My goodness, what a world we live in. Unreal. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'd love for people to go check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie, or you can look at it using my handle @AnimeDad. But we're doing episode by episode, pretty deep dive reviews of the new Trigun Stampede anime, along with Chris from Canada and secular man Matthew Vandiver. So check it out. See what's going on over there. Hopefully you'll have a little fun watching the three of us chat.
Beautiful. Shanze?
Yeah, we have a new episode of 30 Questions coming out here in a couple of weeks. The Mandalorian Season 3. So check that out.
Oh, I think that from what I think they put out another trailer. I ain't watch it because I don't want it.
No, I'm not watching it either. I watched that first one.
The first one was enough. It was like exactly
enough.
what I wanted. That was the hype trailer. Just give me a little bit of ooh, ooh, ooh. I don't know what any of it is, but I can guess, and I've got little ideas and stuff. That's all I need. No more than that. No,
I've seen 0 trailers, so I'm super excited.
Even better, dude. Because like as much as
better.
like as little as I've seen with that first trailer, like it's gonna be so much fun. So yeah, check out 30 Questions wherever you find Finder Podcast. That'll do it. And I'm doing 365 films this year. Follow Adam Portress on TikTok so you can see my updates where I'm talking all the movies that I'm watching. I'm watching far too many movies, including ones that have the stars of Different Strokes in them, just for funsies. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when our Patreon vote for Sweet Sean Zakovac from the internet, Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. A woman done left and took all the reason I was working for. You better not try to stand in my way as I'm walking out the door. Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. I've been working in this factory for now 15 years. All this time I watched my woman drowning in a pool of tears. And I've seen a lot of good folk die, had a lot of bills to pay. I'd give the shirt right off of my back if I had the guts to say, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. My woman done left and took all the reason I was working for. You better not try to stand in my way as I'm walking out the door. Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Well, that foreman, he's a regular dog. The line boss, he's a fool. Got a brand new flat top haircut. Lord thinks he's cool. One of these days I'm gonna blow my top, and that sucker, he's gonna pay. Lord, I can't wait to see their faces when I get the nerve to say, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. A woman done left and took all the reason I was working for. You better not try to stand in my way as I'm walking out the door. Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Take this job and shove it.